Welcome to a slightly foggy day in Empyrion Galactic Survival, and we're stood up on the bridge of my capital vessel. And what I want to do in this video is take a look at the impact of the 10.6 update on an existing save game. Because if you look up in the top left, you can see I am on the 10.6 experimental build, so I want to emphasize that some of the stats we were looking at may change. And what the experimental release states is that when you load an existing save game, the CPU is not active, and some other features like some of the new POIs and all that will not be active. But the main core functionality of the interfaces will be there, and that's what I want to take a look at. And more interestingly, I'm just going to see whether the new thruster configurations and the effect on the pitch and yaw has an effect in the game. I haven't taken the ship off, so it's going to be a bit of a shared voyage of experimentation. And I think probably the best way to start is if we have a quick look at the stats here, you can see straight away that my ship is way over the top. It says CPU 1,230,285 CPU, but of course I'm on tier 1 because I haven't made any changes to the ship. This doesn't have any of the upgrades, and probably the easiest way to show it to you is here. You can see here at the moment I'm a tier 1 ship with a capacity of 200,000. And really, truthfully, for this ship to be fully CPU compliant, I would need to have a tier 4 CPU. I actually like this interface because you can see the different layers. So the CPU is tier 1, the small square below is tier 2, and then below that we've got tier 3 and tier 4. You can see the various components that you need to add to take up the tier level. Now, the impression I've got is that if you level up a ship, you don't need all these tiers. So if you want a tier 4 CV, you just have to install these blocks across it. We'll take a look at those in the research tree in a little while. On the right hand side, you will see here it's a complete breakdown of the CPU. You can see that the hardened steel blocks here. I'm not sure what this 3, 2, 1 and 2, this could be a level. You can see here, because I've used so many hardened steel blocks, I've actually got a CPU impact of 17,000, and you get the total at the top. More importantly, there you can see that 750,000 CPU comes from the RCSs. So what we will be doing is taking the RCSs out, but I want to just make sure everything's okay first. So this is the CPU breakdown. I think the rest of the screen stays very much the same as before. I mean, the yaw isn't there. I mean, we've got 33.47, but then again, I've still got the RCSs installed. So what we're going to do now is we're going to jump in the ship and power up the thrusters. We're going to do a bit of a flight thing, so I'm going to give you a bit of an overview of what things look like. And I'm going to fly west because I want to keep flying towards the daylight. And of course, what you can see now is we've got the new HUD active, and the way the HUD breaks down is that the bar on the left is our height above ground, and you can see it says height above ground, height to orbit, so the both values are shown at the same time. Top center, we've actually got a compass, so we don't have to keep looking up in the top right anymore to be able to see where we go. Now, the bar below the compass is the flight plane, so if we do that, you can see it adjusts there. In fact, probably if I come into here, it would look a bit better. So we've now got this here. Oh, we're in Xerox territory. Okay, we need to go slightly northwest. Wow. So, and I must admit, it's really great that you've actually got the degrees on the compass as well. So you can see, so that's kind of north by northwest. So you can see 315 as we're now flying northwest. I must admit, I do like the compass layout. Now on the right hand side, you've actually got the speed of ship. So if we press here, we go up to here. This ship is very jittery. Now this kind of floaty, jittery type effect is probably due to the new way that thrusters work, because prior to this update, thrusters, you could put them anywhere on the ship and they effectively applied all the way across on the flow of the ship and the way it operated. What thrusters do now, thrusters contribute to roll and yaw, and a big factor of that now is the actual positioning of them. And we'll take a look a bit more about that, but carry on the interface, you can see it with the stop. I think the other thing also is if I keep pressing up there, can I get to maximum speed? Yes, I can. That's good. Because there is a restriction now which is a bit more subtle to do with the aerodynamics model that's been introduced. That if we build a flying brick, and I'm quoting this directly from the release notes, so it's not aerodynamically shaped, you will not be able to obtain maximum speed. And we're going to try that out with the SVs later on. Now, the other controls here, what you've actually got is if I go press W and control, what you will see on there, you'll see a line flying up, and that is the cruise control. And what will happen is that will slowly build up. No, oh, come on. Why is this? Oops. Okay, we're going to have to fly north. Just going to have to maneuver north. But the last thing I want to do is stroll into 0x territory at the moment. And you can see the cruise control, but you see quite interesting there. Now my ship isn't building to that maximum speed. And I wonder if that is something to do with the aerodynamics model. But as soon as you press this, you can see that the cruise control goes off. So it works very much like a car. The moment you take any form of control, the cruise control goes off. Starts to turn a little bit back more west. Must admit, I am really liking the new compass. And then the next thing you can do, if you press W and left shift, what you will see is there's a boost there, which gives you an increase of acceleration. I think is probably the more important thing, which will get you up to speed a lot quicker. And that functionality is part of every thruster. Every thruster has a little bit of a boost capacity. And what they did say is, whether it's in the stats, but I don't know if you can see it here. I mean, maybe that hasn't been added yet. Just have a quick look through. RCS is 10 there. Nope. So I'm not seeing anything there, so maybe it's not in here just yet. Anyway, so that is the main controls on the screen. If you look at the bottom right hand side, what you will see is some general information about the ship now being consolidated into a single power. And I think the top one is power consumption. The second one is the amount of fuel. So we've got 62.9 minutes of fuel left. I think the third one is oxygen. So we've got 56% oxygen. And then the bottom one is the hyperdrive fuel. Then if you come to the left of that, you will see a bar and it looks red. When I first saw that, I thought, oh, there's something or an error. But what that actually is, your shields. So that gives a complete tour of the HUD. And to be honest, I think I'm going to stick with the 10.6 update, because I think going back and not using this HUD now is going to be a little bit disappointing. What I'm going to do now is we're going to try and find a place to land. Okay, we're in the middle of a lake. I think what we're going to... and the crash ship is actually in the middle of the lake as well. I think what we're going to do is fly a bit south. I need to find somewhere to land. Now, one of the things about this ship is I do need a fairly flat patch of land to land on. I think maneuvering this is going to be a little bit fun. Right, looks like I found an island here, so we're just going to try and put down on here. If I can get along the spine of the island, we're going to come here. So, yeah, I think we can live with that. I'm just going to take the thrusters off to try and conserve fuel, because I do have a bit of a Promethean problem. Okay, the ship's rolled out a little bit. And what I'm going to do now is just to confirm what we're going to be doing. Wow, the whole ship is lopsided. I'll show you the CPU statistics. By far the biggest drain here is the RCSs. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to remove the RCSs. Now this could be a complete disaster. Okay, it's just right. What we're going to do is we're going to hook to there, because I don't want to destroy the RCSs. So I'm just going to get into here. Now most of the RCSs are actually, whoops, here. So we're going to just make sure we retrieve. I'm going to take this one out. That's 4. And I've got some more back down. Whoops, fucker. And I'm going to take out that one, that one. And there should be enough of 3 here. So that is all 10 RCSs removed. Of course, it's got to be a thunderstorm as well. And just to show you, so the ship now is being reduced to, wow, it's just taking out 10 RCSs has reduced my ship down to a tier 3. So we've now got an allocated of 480,285. That is pretty good. Now the efficiency level is probably misleading because our CPU is actually switched off. But it shows how much difference just taking out 10 RCSs is going to do. And what we're going to do now is we're going to jump in the ship. And again, we're going to power up the thrusters. So we're now flying completely without RCSs. And I want to keep flying. Just make sure we don't fly into any. Oh, I don't want to go south. I want to go west. I'd love to find some flat terrain. You can see how jittery the ship still remains even without the RCSs. That's the effect of the thrusters. So we're just going to fly a little bit there. Look at that. Wow. Oh, it's a bit like a bucking bronco at the moment. What I'm going to do now is try and find another place to land. This ship is almost uncontrollable. I think this is going to be quite important. This is the reason why I wanted to make this video, because a lot of people are talking about the effect of CPU, but to be honest, it's going to be like volume and weights. If you like it, you switch it on, which I probably most likely will. If you don't like it, you switch it off. I think the positioning of thrusters, so I think there's going to be a lot of ships in the workshop that will be almost unflyable. You're going to have to modify them. And I think this is going to have a far bigger impact than CPU, because the impression I got is that the new thruster effect and capability is something that you will not be able to switch off. And I think also the aerodynamics, if you've got a flying brick, that is going to have a major effect. I don't think we're going to find any terrain here. This is just, I don't want to spend too long out here. I found some open terrain here. It's not flat, but I think we'll be able to land on it. So we're just going to come in here. We're going to turn the thrusters off again. What I want to do now is we're going to come in here, and I've got a couple of upright thrusters. I've got some small thrusters. And what I want to do now is we're going to make a change to the ship. And I think what we're going to do is do this in person, because, well, in fact, probably the best way is to show you is the fact my thruster configuration at the moment is not particularly very good. I mean, if we go up through here, you can see at the moment I've got my two down thrusters up here, there, and all my lift thrusters are, oops, lost contact with the drone. Yeah, thank you, game. If I can do that again. Yeah, my two lift thrusters are right at the back here, which on the old configuration here, and I've got a lateral thruster there and a lateral thruster there. Oh no, well, I thought I had some more lateral thrusters here, so I've only got one thrusters on each side pushing. Is that right? No, here's the other lateral thruster. So probably the lateral thrusters are okay. It's just the lift thrusters and the down thrusters. I mean, these thrusters here, because they're stopping and they're working along the axis of the ship, these should be okay. So what I need to do is, I think if we can go down here, and what I'm thinking is that if I can, I'm just going to retrieve blocks. If I take out that block and that block there, and we're just going to, and I think we'll start with this thruster. These are the, we're just going to use the enclosed thrusters. If we put two enclosed thrusters there, and I suppose I better replace that block. Oops! I'm getting toasted by my own thrusters. I've got heat stroke. Okay. I can't remember if I've actually got a shower. Okay, we're just gonna have to stand back here. I think we'll be okay. And just gonna use a hardened steel block. Yeah, we've cooled off a bit. And Apologies for the sound effects. This game can be very inconvenient sometimes when it actually does it there. So let me just put this block back in again. Just drop that in there. Of course, the other thing I want to do is if I come here, and I'm just gonna, so I want to take out the extra thrusters in the back now. So we'll just walk through the ship and get in here, and we're just gonna fly up through here. I think what we're gonna do is take out this thruster. If we take out these ones here, I think we'll leave the hole in the bottom for the moment. I don't want to waste too much time on here. Okay, my food bar is dropping down, so we're going to have to stop and have something to eat. Supplies and meds. I think we can. And we'll just pop a steak as well. So what I've done now is I've rebalanced the lift thrusters, and we're just going to take a look to see if that will, how that affects the way the ship flies. Actually no, I think what we're going to do is, sorry about this, output and supplies. These are small thrusters. I think if I, okay, we've got an object in the spawn area because I'm against a wall. I think what I'm going to do is we're going to put in a couple of blocks here. I'm going to put in a couple of small thrusters here. When this is probably not going to be min-max, but I think if we put in a couple of small thrusters there at the front. I mean, there could be a case, you could argue, that maybe what you need to do is, rather than have kind of one big thruster there, is maybe having a smaller thrusters. What's that there? Okay. It's a hardened steel block. Okay, we're just going to take that out on that side. It's 3 back from that end. Okay. And what we're going to do is just put a couple of small thrusters in here like that. And then what I'm going to do, just for experimental purposes, is we're going to take out these ones. And I'm just going to regroup everything as well. I'm just going to auto group, we should be okay. So what I've done now is I've replaced the 2 medium thrusters with 4 small thrusters on the top. And again, I'm just going to have a quick look at the. So we've now down to 474,741. And again, just going to, whoops, going to put the thrusters on. And what we're going to do is now lift. And we're going to see what the ship, how the ship flies now. Whoops. Get out the trees. Get out the trees. Come on. These are trees. You're a massive capital vessel. You should be able to. So it's still a little bit jittery, but we're not getting that. But we're not getting that massive kind of up and down now. In fact, that flies quite well now. I'm quite happy with that because we're now actually getting a proper turn rather than that jerky backwards and forwards motion that we were getting before. And we are getting, I mean, it's still a little bit twitchy there. I mean, let's just fly up a bit and then fly forward. Yeah, I mean, it's actually dropping quite well as well. Anyway, I think that's enough playing with the capital vessel. We're just going to find another place to land because what I want to do now is move on to the SV. So I just want to take a look at the SV. So I'm just going to land here. And I'm just going to come in here. We're going to power off the thrusters. I mean, I will do some other fixes and adjustment off camera, but what I really want to do in this part is kind of show you what various things that can be done. Okay, for food, I think what we're going to do now is we'll start with the SVs. So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at this one. So we're just going to jump in here. We got a little bit of fuel, so we have to be a bit careful. Actually, let's just kind of top the fuel up a little bit. Loot lifter, not loot lifter, super toaster, personal supplies. Put some fuel in. So we're just going to take a quick look at the stats. What we got here. So this is just over a tier 2, but bear in mind I've actually got some force RCSs in there. Just have a quick look out of curiosity. So if we go into tech tree, I mean this is probably a quicker way of doing this. Small vessel. Where's the RCSs? There we are. So each RCS has a CPU value of 750. So that's quite interesting. And this ship, so if we go back to here, have a quick look at devices, RCS, and we got 4 RCSs in here. So that is effectively 3,000. So if I took out the RCSs in this ship, I could get it down to, well, definitely a tier 2, and probably with a little bit more squeezing, I could probably get it down to a lot less. It's quite interesting though that the weapons are 4,260, and I've only got, just have a quick look. I know I'm flashing backwards and forwards. Apologies, guys. And let me just do an auto group on there. So weapons-wise, I've got 3 Gatling guns and 2 rocket launchers on this ship, which you could almost say is a standard configuration for an early SV. And that's actually given me so that's almost the size of a tier 1 ship. 4,260. That is pretty awesome. Let's just have a quick look at the tech tree. Sorry that I'm digressing a little bit. I'm just curious. I haven't really looked at this in detail, so this is very much me exploring it with you. So each Gatling gun is 720, and each one of these rocket launches is 1,000. So weapons is going to be a big factor. Anyway, let's just get in and just see how well this ship flies. Let me turn the thrusters on. So we're just getting off here. Now you see there's a very important change with the HUD with this now, is the fact that at the bottom left there you will now see that it actually gives you the range of the active weapons on this side. I don't know if you change it, will that change? Yes, it does change. So if you change, so that is the missile launcher, range 182 meters, 171. Let's get a third-person view. And this ship actually flies quite surprisingly well. Yeah, okay, we'll cancel the remote logistics. We don't need it. Spange did a good job of this ship. He must have anticipated what was coming up. In fact, it feels a bit more stable actually than it did before with the new thruster configuration, because this ship used to be quite jittery. And actually, I'm really quite impressed with that actually. And I think also you've got to remember is that this ship's got wings, so you've now got the new aerodynamic effect. And again, I think this is what is going to have an impact going forward. That before, I mean, we'll have a look at this when we look at the super lifter. There's always been a tendency to, how can you say, build an almost flying brick type things with solid boxy ships. But what was that? And of course, can we get to maximum? Yeah, we can get to maximum thrust. So that's good. So I don't want to labour this too much because I'm aware of the time constraints on this video, and I do want to look at the other 2 ships as well. So I think from the point of view of the new thruster layout, this is still an effective ship. But let's say the one problem is CPU stats, but I think we could trim this. I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to land the ship, and then maybe this would be a good point to talk about how you actually upgrade ships. So we're just going to come in here. I'm just going to come in here like that. Just move the ship forward because I don't want to waste fuel because I am tight on fuel. I'm just going to come up in here. Now, the way ships are upgraded is the fact that you have to install these modules, and you've got the different levels of tiers, and these actual blocks do represent the way that the ship is upgraded. So, if you want to go to a tier 4 ship, you need 4 of these units, and so this tier 1 is a standard CPU, and then you've got this here. If I go to the tech tree, these are actually in miscellaneous here. So what you actually get is the core, then you've got CPU extender, SV, CV, and extension. This is base, so you actually need the extenders for bases as well. But the key factor is, if you look at the crafting, to make the level 1 ones, you can actually make these with 2 cores and a flux coil. These you can actually manufacture. Actually, that's quite interesting that the extender for the CV is actually at level 10, and that's actually 4 flux cores. So this is 2 cores, 1 flux core. An SV extender is 2 cores, 2 flux cores, coils, sorry, and this is 2 cores. So actually extending your base is going to be quite interesting. I don't have a base to demonstrate that, but when you get up to here, what you will see is that when you want to make these, because these have to be manufactured, and you can see, well, they can be made in a large constructor, although this one has to be made in an advanced constructor. So let's trace this path through. So what we need is to go to tier 2, we need one of these, and we can manufacture that almost straight away with 2 cores and 1 flux core. Now to go to here, to make this, we actually need 2 of these. So this is a CPU extender HVT2. And we need 2 of those, 2 flux cores, and then we got this small Optronic bridge. Now this is the important thing, because there's a small Optronic bridge that you're going to have to find by going out and finding loot boxes. So that's quite interesting. So it's almost like, let me just go back, let's cancel that for the moment. If we go back to looking at this model, so what you're actually doing is when you're building these, you're actually including the tier below as part of the process. So let's go back here again. So what we've actually got is, I mean, that is going to be a lot of crafting. Because I mean, if we go to this one, we actually need a level 3. So in some ways, what you're going to have to do is if you imagine, especially like to go, say, from tier 3 to tier 4, it says there you need a CPU extender HVT3, 1, and 2 small Optronics items. So what you're effectively going to have to do, if you were trying to expand a ship rather than build one from scratch, you would have to pull this out of the ship to put into the constructor to make that. That's quite fascinating. And you can also see, if you go down here to the base, so ships need the small one, but the base you're going to need a large Optronics constructor. Oh, that's going to take a lot of effort to upgrade things. It's not going to be quite easy. I think the consequence of this is going to be that I can see a lot of people, and I'm going to include myself in this, building ships in the creative mode, put them up in the workshop so that you can bypass this area here. Although I think you will probably need the resources to make these extra components. I don't know whether the small Optronics matrix and the large Optronics matrix will require rare elements, so that could add an extra dimension to it. Anyway, I don't want to label that too much. I think this is going to be an interesting one here, and I think this may need rebalancing, to be honest, because it seems strange that this needs 2. I can understand that one of these and all that. Never mind. So let's just jump out of the ship, and what I want to do now is I'm going to take a look at the loot lifter. So I'm just going to jump into the loot lifter here. I think I've got fuel for this. Yeah, we've got a bit of fuel. Let's have a quick look. So the loot lifter is 39,364. Actually, that's quite surprising. Actually, I was expecting that to be a lot more. And considering it's got 6 RCSs, we could probably get that down. I mean, it's got a lot of thrusters, so you can see a lot. I mean, this ship is literally boosted over. in order to carry stuff. So you could probably get this ship down by taking the RCSs out, and I mean, warp drive there. It's quite interesting that I'm not seeing the constructors in here. That is interesting. So do constructors actually have a CPU value? Let's just have a quick look at that. Sorry for me getting digressive. Small vessel constructor. Let me find the constructor, mobile constructor. Yeah, that says 2000. I know that this ship actually has 3 constructors in it, but it's not container. I'm not actually seeing the constructors in this breakdown, which is interesting. Oh well, maybe that's just a bug or something. Anyway, I don't want to get too much into this. We're going to basically whack the thrusters on. We're going to leave the performance off. I've got no power in here because I'm... Wow! Ah, whoa, look at that. This actually flies at... I mean, it's a bit more jittery, but it does fly. I mean, we've got to remember it's got RCSs in it, so we would probably need to take, for a proper test, we would need to take the RCSs out. But I don't really want to hack these ships about in this part. One, it would take too long, and two, if I'm going to do it, I want to do it. Wow. I think maybe we may need to take the thrusters off this. But yeah, it's a bit skittish. Yeah, as I say, if I'm going to take the thrusters off, which I probably won't in this playthrough, or I might just as an experiment, but if I'm going to do that, I'm going to do it properly and take me time, because I don't want to destroy the ship and spend a lot of time rebuilding it. Yep, I think that was probably a little bit more exciting. Back here, land, please, thank you. So, yep, I mean, I don't know where the RCSs are. Let me just have a quick look. See if we can, maybe we can remove a couple of RCSs without too much damage. As this ship is really well sculpted in, so I think the RCSs will be under the floor here, and I don't really want to damage this ship. So no, I was half hoping that I could see. I mean, I could tag them and find them, which is something I can see a lot of us having to do in the future. So that is the loot lifter. Let's see if we can... Oops, just injured myself. Right, now we're down to the heap of junk in the back here. I'm just going to just drop the ramp. And I'm out of food, I better... So we're just going to go to the super toaster. More supplies and meds. Just have that. And I think we'll just eat a steak as well, so I don't have to worry too much about this. So this is the ultimate basic hover vehicle around, so we're just going to jump in here and take a look. And this is 6062 CPU. So that's just over a tier 1. And again, it's the RCSs, see, 1200. And I don't know if I can actually remove the RCSs here. I can't. I mean, if I jump in them, because I'm just about to turn the power back on. I'm assuming I've got some power. Yep. Let me just back off and get out of the ship here. You know, get to maximum height. Now you'll see there's a slight difference with the on the left hand side there. You've got the height, the little thing at the bottom with the arrow facing upwards gives you your height above the terrain. But quite strangely, what it actually gives you is effectively the height above the base, which is 58.3 meters. So I think you have to be a little bit careful there, because you may get kind of you can probably confuse yourself. Yeah, there's an RCS there. I'm just going to knock out that one and that one. So we've now got the ship down, and we've by removing the RCSs. We've now actually got the ship down to a tier 1, which is not too bad. I mean, it's not going to win any awards, but... And we'll just give it a little bit of a flyover. Yeah, I think it works okay. And of course, with hover vehicles, unlike SVs and CVs, because you tend to put the hover lifters on the corners of the ship, you will make any difference. But one thing I can see having a problem is in the case of, say, if you're making a minor HV, because normally you put a lot more thrusters on it in order to give flexibility and control. And I think this is where things could go a little bit wrong. But yeah, I think that's going to go there. So we're just going to fly around a little bit. We've got fuel thrusters. Actually, I think that if you look at the bottom right, you see there's something. I think that is okay. If you turn off all of it, the ship drifts. So that, I think that is the equivalent to the auto brake. I'm not too sure what the other symbols in the bottom right hand side is. I think the one on the extreme left, just to the right of the inertia one, is the SV-HV docking. I think this is a good point to stop, because what we'll do is we'll carry on exploring. I'm going to stay on 10.6 going forward with this playthrough, and we'll see how we'll maybe do a bit more experimenting mixed in with the general gameplay. And I think we're just going to finish with some conclusions based on what we've been looking at. I really like the HUD, and I can't see me wanting to go back to the 10.5 interface. I think, and I think maybe it's a good opportunity at the moment to use the experimental to get used to using it. What I will say is that if you're going to carry on with an existing save game, or even if you're just going to start a new playthrough and think you're just going to be able to switch the CPU off and just ignore it, I think the bigger factor is going to be the effect of the positioning of thrusters. I can see quite a few ships that have in the workshop that may have stability problems, so there might be an element of rebuilding. So what I would probably recommend is that if you've got ships in an existing playthrough or ships that you like using, get into creative mode and see how they fly, see if they're going to work in the new configuration. So I think that's going to be a very key factor going forward. But at the same time, I've got a feeling that having proper thruster positioning is something that can be very easily integrated into existing playthroughs. I know some people will dispute that quite vehemently because they want to be able to build flying bricks and all sorts of other bits and pieces, and just very, what you could say, almost very experimental ships. Anyway, so this is where I'm going to leave it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it interesting. And until next time, whatever you do, enjoy your gaming.